Greeting YouTube. I recently read something and it was framed in a way that I've never seen before. I'm familiar with the concept they're discussing here, but this particular framing was one I never encountered. And they were referring to it as the YouTube commentators, commenters fallacy. And the fallacy is that if you tell the truth, you will upset people. Therefore, if you upset people, you must be telling the truth. Now, it's absolutely true that you will upset people if you tell the truth. Usually the folks that don't want that truth revealed, the people who are best served if that truth is not shown to the world at large. So they are using whatever particular type of uh, lie or deception or social construct they have come up with, perchance for decades or millennia. Um, and if you are going to go expose that fallacy, that those lies, and then tell the truth to the world, they are in fact going to be upset with you. Those in power don't like the truth. Um, However, it is also true that the edge lords of the world truly believe that if they upset people, that must mean they are telling the truth. They actually have convinced themselves of this as some form of rule of the road, some sort of concept that is understood by everyone, except it isn't, because it falls into the same category of all poodles are dogs, not all dogs are poodles, um, which is my favorite example for that particular concept. I love the poodles dog comparison. Um, and I just never seen it framed in the YouTube commentator's fallacy before. My friend Amy pointed out it was also called the Bill Mayer fallacy because he is known as the person or Bill Maher. I can't remember the Mahaer Maher, like Bill Maher, I guess. Uh, I don't ever listen to the dude. I've heard him gab in the past. I don't necessarily need to listen to him gab in the future. He says enough, has said enough offensive things in the time the few times I did watch him. I don't need any more of him for the rest of my life. Um, but he seems to believe that as well. That if he is offending people, that must mean he is speaking truth to power. When normally he's punching down because he doesn't actually have what it takes to speak truth to power. He just wants to become popular, and one of the fastest ways to be popular is to punch down. You're going to get a lot of support from a lot of people who also want to punch down. They want to make themselves feel big by standing on others because they are actually very small. Um, but this idea, and we see it here on YouTube all the time, uh, that you are telling the truth if you're upsetting people is something I encounter constantly. I also encounter it on Instagram. I had made a comment about the fact that if red caps were smart, they wouldn't be red caps. And someone snapped back at me in this very pithy manner that uh, you people, meaning, I guess, people with a progressive worldview, think that that a person can just change their biological sex. And I replied to them, ask an expert. Gender is not binary. I wasn't going to get into discussion. There's a difference between biological things and gender identity things because this person doesn't understand the subtleties that we're discussing here. They're not going to understand the concept of intersex people. They're not going to understand the concepts of that gender is more than a binary because they probably stopped thinking about this in fifth grade. And that's what they've been basing their entire life on, as opposed to experts who understand is that the more you know, the cloudier things get. And but that's also about the truth. The more you know, the more complicated it becomes. There are certain things that you can understand quite clearly, and they're not ever going to be equivalent. So if I say I have progressive views where I think everyone is deserving of civil rights and human liberties, um, and someone else says, well, I'm a white nationalist. I believe only my group should have civil liberties and human rights. Well, that's not comparable. You're not comparing apples to apples there. You're comparing chalk to cheese. You're comparing, a progressive worldview to white nationalism. Those are not equivalent. But there are too many people out there, the edgelords I mentioned earlier, that think it is. That think that those are exactly the same thing, and it's absolute bullshit. So I'd never seen that framing before. The YouTube commenters fallacy. How many people out there have seen that framing before? And am I just woefully behind the times? Because I am an old.